Hello and welcome to my presentation. Today, the topic is designing reflective, personalized, competency-based education models in an interprofessional faculty program. My name is Shelley McDowell Porter, and I will be your speaker today. Greetings and welcome again. I'm currently at Chamberlain University. I am a senior program manager and an associate professor. My degrees are in IO psychology, and I am a macro social worker with concentrations in organizations and communities. My specialty certifications and certificates include Kirkpatrick evaluations, ProSci change management practitioner, a certified diversity specialist, and I'm also a certified credentialing specialist. And I do have a certificate, a postmaster's certificate in instructional systems design. So if you're on LinkedIn, please do connect with me so that I can provide you additional information after this presentation. The learning objectives today are to identify core design elements of a reflective and personalized competency-based education model for faculty. I currently work at the Center for Faculty Excellence at Chamberlain University, and my end users are the faculty. And so this is a program designed to help the faculty, which in turn will help the students in the end. The second learning objective is to analyze how differentiated learning pathways can support interprofessional faculty across levels of experience. When I say differentiated, I mean that they come in and they take a diagnostic, and the diagnostic exam lets us know if they are emerging in that area of competency, and emerging is anyone that scores under 74%. Anyone that scores between 75% and 84% is considered progressing. And anyone who has an 85 to 100% is considered someone who has a good mastery level already. Next, we will explore practical strategies for embedding reflection and cultural responsiveness into your faculty development design. And lastly, I will talk a little bit about the future of our program, which is called the Teaching and Learning Foundations, what we'll be doing next. Our program should be launching in January, so we don't have full data yet, but the initial data and excitement is very exciting about our program. So first, I'll give you an overview of the Teaching and Learning Foundations, which allows us to build reflective teaching capacity through layered practice-based learning. So our program is called Teaching and Learning Foundations, and it is comprised of 5 courses. And you'll see what the 5 courses are on the screen right now. It is an interprofessional professional development program for 4,000 plus faculty that includes full-time and adjunct faculty in our nursing, public health, physician assistants, and social work programs at Chamberlain University. We have a shared set of overarching competencies. What we did was we took the professional standards competencies from our 4 academic areas. So the Council of Social Work Education's EPAS, Council on Education for Public Health, Commission of Collegiate Nursing Education, and the National Commission on Certification of Physician Assistants. And we did an analysis to track what was similar across all of those professions. And we came up with these 10 shared competencies. You can see it here: professional ethics and integrity, cultural competence and equity, evidence-based practice and lifelong learning, interprofessional collaboration and communication, person-centered and population-centered care, leadership and systems thinking, quality improvement and safety, health policy, advocacy, and social responsibility, technology and informatics, and finally, resilience and well-being. So we took those 10 competencies, and that's what we are basing our teaching and learning foundations curriculum off of to make sure that it spans the competencies for all the professions and it accomplishes a shared community. Some essential elements of the teaching and learning foundations, we have diagnostic exams and post assessments, and those are multiple choice based to see what the individual's knowledge is in a specific area. We have formative activities, including learning labs, layered learning, scaffolded, applied to that person's specific understanding and skill level. We also have project-based workbooks that are differentiated based on someone's diagnostic score. So if the person received emerging, progressing, or mastery, they will get a structured plan, workbook plan, each week of the module to make sure that they are understanding content at their specific level and moving towards the next competency-based level. If they're already at mastery, it might be something more rigorous to get them even further. We have self-assessments, and they are Likert tools that surface personal habits and impact. We also have something called adaptive and maladaptive matrices, and it shows you what behavior is ideal in the classroom with students as well as what behaviors would not be ideal. So at Chamberlain, we think that while it's great to show what right looks like, it's also equally important if you're doing reflection to know what wrong looks like. And it's also equally important that we provide you with some impact moves to let you know what you can change to shift your teaching practices to become more intentional and positive for the student population. We also have community contributions gallery. And so after everyone has completed their workbooks, we encourage them to upload it to the community of practice so that other individuals can get insights from it. We could celebrate their growth, but also that it can become a tool that everybody can use and borrow from because as a collective, we're definitely stronger than individuals. And so we're creating a community of practice by sharing the practical workbook tools that we're actually compiling. And the workbooks are completed each week, and they culminate actually into a toolkit that you can use outside of our course immediately in your class. And as always, we have an evaluation strategy to make sure that we're assessing every level of Kirkpatrick, which includes reaction, learning behavior, and results. And so we're also getting reflection at these points in the learning. Every single phase has a reflection point so that we can understand what the experience of the faculty members are and what we can do to make that experience better. So this is our Mastery Integrated Competency Pathway, MICP. The individuals that come into our micro courses complete diagnostic assessments. So that again is a multiple choice quiz like that they take, and it gives them the score. And their score will let us know their mastery level, which again can be emerging, progressing, or mastery level. They proceed to the course content, and everyone gets to review the same course content. However, your workbook is different based on your mastery level. And you'll also get additional readings or resources specifically based on your mastery level. Each week has different modules, and we try to do up to 6 modules, no more. And we try to make sure our courses can be completed in up to a week, and it's all self-paced. So they submit their projects each week. or each module. And then they complete another diagnostic test to see how much they've grown. And you must obtain 85% to move on to the next level. And you have two attempts. And if for some reason you don't make it in those attempts, it will just provide you with individual support so that you can take it again a few months later. Next, you complete an evaluation, and after that, you can proceed to the next modules or the next course in the cycle. Our interprofessional learning framework has 4 quadrants. We're making sure that our faculty members get to explore the content, and that typically is what is in the learning management system for them to review, and it could include historical information, curated lesson plans, reading, case studies, but it's a strong theoretical base um, so that they can identify the knowledge that needs to prepare them for deeper exploration. We have practice. So it's a lot of hands-on activities, simulations, scenarios, just real-world context. After you learn things in the LMS, you'll be able to actually do some hands-on work so that you know how to move forward with that skill. As is the topic of this presentation, we have reflection, and there's a lot of guided reflections. Of course, we have typical things like journaling. You can absolutely have discussion prompts, but for us, it's a way of life. And so it's embedded everywhere, especially the self-assessments you'll see when we get to the matrices. And then we have collaborate. And for collaborate, here we have um, our community of practices. As we said before, we have opportunities for discussions, feedback sessions, and we will also have extracurricular things that they can join throughout the year to further expand their collaboration with their peers, because again, it's an interprofessional program. So self-assessments. Self-assessments, the purpose is again for faculty to reflect on their day-to-day teaching practices. The example I'm giving you here is a course on creating psychological safety in the classroom for students. And so you would read the self-assessment and you would circle or mark off in each row what question, how you felt about the question, how it best represented you. And then the scoring instructions is that you would tally all of the scores, and here the interpretation would let you know if you're relationally impactful, you're doing well, or if you are at risk of somehow limiting or violating the student's sense of psychological safety. And next, I'll give you an example of what that looks like. So here you can see on the left, the responses, I rarely use students' names and tend to focus on a few who regularly participate. And on the right, it says I intentionally include every student by name and invite participation from quieter voices. So it would be up to the faculty member to state where they are on that spectrum. And we have a few questions here that would reflect their specific behavior. So the faculty members get to reflect on how they behave in the course. And when we get to the matrices, they get to see how their behavior looks in the class and what they can do to change it. So I'm just going to pause for just 15 seconds so that you have the opportunity to review what's on screen. All right. So after you do a self-assessment to know where you are without knowing much of the course content, you will be able to review a matrices and impact moves. So you'll be able to surface what your behavioral habits are daily. So how do we use the matrices and the impact moves? Um, you review it, you identify where your behavior is, and you see how you can change it. So here, this is a mock course that includes Clark's four stages framework of psychological safety, which includes inclusion safety, learner safety, contributor safety, and challenger safety. On the horizontal, you will see another theoretical model called Nodding's care. And it's how the teacher or professor provides care. So caring for people, cared for, reciprocity, and authenticity. So in each cell, we have what the ideal behavior is when you're dealing with students. For example, if I'm looking at learner safety, the ability to feel safe to grow, under cared for, the student experience, we should be building trust by creating a climate where questions and confusion are welcomed. And in practice, what this looks like is we're validating the student's hesitation or uncertainty. And some examples of things that might be said to the students is, if you're unsure, that's okay. This is exactly where learning begins. Other behaviors, let's look at challenger safety, which in some traditional classrooms is hard for some professors to be challenged by students. So let's look at challenger safety and authenticity. So the adaptive or positive behavior would be encouraging creative thinking and dissent. So for people to say, hey, I don't agree with you. And so in practice, what that looks like is you welcome counter narratives and alternative solutions, not just the ones that you as a professor have come to know as true, but other people's lived experiences. What's an example of something you could say is, what if we turn this idea on its head? Who might benefit or who might be left out? And so I'll give you a few seconds also to take a look at this so that you know why um, it's important. Again, this is behaviors that are ideal, but you might not be seeing yourself in this matrix. Okay, I'm going to move to the maladaptive. So you will note that it is a mirror image of the adaptive matrix. However, in here, this is what behavior looks like that you should not be doing. So hopefully the self-reflection will be, oh my gosh, this is what I do. So I'm not doing the positive. I am actually doing what's not ideal. So if we look again at learner safety, that's making people feel unsafe to grow because this is the maladaptive. If we look at the same cell that we looked at before in the adaptive, this one is the behavior that you would not want to have. So learner safety by cared for. So you dismiss or you ignore the student's confusion. And in practice, what that looks like is you move on quickly if students hesitate. And what you might say is, I've explained this already. If you don't get it, review the slides. Again, we did challenger safety by authenticity, also in the adaptive matrices. So let's see what that looks like when it's maladaptive. So you use sarcasm or you ridicule to undercut innovation. What does that look like? You mock the student's idea in front of peers. And what would be something that would be said? Oh, sure, let's throw out the textbook and wing it. Great plan. So I also want to say this, while this might not be you, this might be a peer that you're observing. So you could look and be reflective and say, wow, that peer isn't really acting up to snuff with the students. So again, you can reflect on what positive behaviors look like, and you could also reflect on what maladaptive behaviors look like. So I'll give you a few seconds to take a look at this as well. Impact moves. So what do you do if your behaviors are not optimal? Well, in our course design, we have impact moves. We give you a few things that are micro moves in the sense that they're small everyday things that you can do, but they're intentional so that you grow in your teaching capacity and you're able to connect with the students on a better level. And so let me show you what impact moves look like. So here, I have side by side the adaptive and the maladaptive behaviors that we looked at. And if you look in the last column where it says impact moves, small behaviors with big effects, we have here some examples of things that you can do to move towards the more adaptive, more responsive, culturally appropriate behaviors that will engage your students. So you can greet every student by name at least once per class. You can use rotating groupings that prevent social isolation. And you could end every class with whose voice hasn't been heard yet for inclusion safety by caring for. Um, for learner safety and authenticity, you could, if you pretend to be perfect emotionally detached, you can do a micro move by saying, I used to think, but now I see, and share how student feedback has changed your approach. Model curiosity and learning in real time. So again, we make sure that you're reflecting on the behaviors that would work well, as well as some behaviors that would not work well. But we also give you impact moves, so we arm you with things that you can do to move your skills and your connections with the students to a better place. So I'll give you a couple of seconds to take a look at this as well. Okay. So what's important to note here is competencies and knowledge, skills, abilities, and other characteristics. Remember, we looked at the 10 shared competencies for the program. And again, the program is interprofessional. You will see here, for example, um, one of the skills we had was demonstrate awareness that every student carries visible and invisible experiences that shape how they learn. Use strategies that invite quieter voices, on and on. So, what you saw in the matrix for adaptive behaviors is actually knowledge, skills, abilities, and other characteristics. And here you see we've been able to map the statements that are in the matrix to align with the Chamberlain 10 shared competencies. So this is a sample. So for example, for knowledge, it aligned with create inclusive, supportive, and equitable learning environments. Um, the skill map to engage students with effective teaching strategies and critical thinking. So we're making sure that the competencies still map and still align. All right. Differentiated project-based learnings. Now, this is the heart of our program, making sure that we are equity-based and that we are working with every faculty member at their specific level and getting them to their personal best, but helping to set them up to move to the next level as they move forward. Why use differentiated learning? It's aligned well with CBE programs because you want to know what the competency is and you want to speak to that person's competencies. We've had programs in our professional careers where, okay, you took a diagnostic test, but everyone got the same material. That is not equity. That is forcing some people to work harder um, while they have a disadvantage. And for some people, the things might be too easy. So, not customizing the learning is a disadvantage to all mastery levels. And so, scaffolding helps people reflect on um, their current skill set, and they notice patterns, they examine relational impact, and they're able to grow because they know where their level's at. And they all also will be able to know what the next step and what the next level is. So that's why differentiated project-based workbooks are ideal for competency-based programs. It makes it more rigorous rather than just using um, the diagnostic and post assessments of um, multiple choice. This has a hands-on approach to it. Differentiated workbook. So here's an example. If someone comes in as emerging, perhaps they are, if you're looking at Bloom's, they're on the understand and application level. So we might give them assessment that focuses on helping their theoretical knowledge and has some basic application. And their reflective prompts might be based on their understanding and basic application, as well as the readings. And for this particular instructor, um, whoever is moderating the course might have a high touch point with them because they might need more guided reflection. They might need more support and coaching than someone else in the other two levels. If someone is progressing, their skill set might be more along the lines of application and analysis. And so, as you see here in the workshop description, that faculty member might get a work book that is much more tailored to analyzing a situation, maybe doing more case studies, assessing what that is. But those individuals would get something more rigorous, a work that's more rigorous than emerging. And their reflection prompts will be on that analysis and breaking things apart and how they would put it back together. And lastly, for mastery, those will be harder. So those faculty members might be asked to audit and redesign a course to make it more inclusive in the design for students. And their reflection questions might be, how do you promote this? What kind of policies could you put in place? And likewise, someone with higher mastery might get a lower touch point from the course moderator than somebody who is progressing or emerging. So I will move on to the next slide. Here are just some examples of what differentiated workbooks would look like. So you see the emerging workbook is on the understand and apply level. The progressing workbook is on the apply and analyze. And the mastery level has the evaluate and create. So again, the cognitive rigor is much more extensive as they move up in mastery levels. And so again, the faculty members will be given different assignments based on their specific level for that specific module. And you can see they have different reflection prompts based on the assignments that they received. So I'll give you a little bit to take a look at this. Okay. Community contributions and galleries. This is where individuals did 5 modules and they had workbooks for each module and they combined their workbooks and they've uploaded it to the gallery where everyone that has completed the course has access. And so perhaps I've never taught MSW 500. However, there's a colleague who has taught MSW 500, and they have uploaded their information to their completed workbook to the gallery. I now have access to it, and I can take a look at it and reach out to a colleague that I don't know. Or if I am in the public health program and I want to be inspired perhaps by something social work or physician assistants or the nursing program is doing, I can go into that community and pull the workbooks to see how they would apply their skills to specific classrooms. And so the diversity of thought and the different contexts really enriches the interprofessional experience. So nurses are not just communicating with nurses or social workers with social workers. It's interprofessional, and we can now borrow from each other's different skill sets. What I think is remarkable is that the public health team is very community oriented, and they do a lot of work in the community. And so if I am in nursing, I might want to look at how they're organizing in the community, even if I'm working in a hospital setting. So I might borrow from what community practice does to align that with with an organizational setting if I'm trying to get something done in the work environment. So the community contributions, they showcase other people's work, peers across disciplines. You can give kudos, you can reach out and connect to another colleague that's in your discipline or outside of your discipline. But it builds a culture of collaboration and professional growth that we're all growing as health professions together. And of course, again, it supports the CBE because it's authentic, you share your work, it's growth. So it's not just your mastery level, you can see other people at different mastery levels and what that looks like. And it demonstrates how the same pathway could be diverse. And you get to reflect not just on what you have, but on the community and what the community has as well. Because oftentimes you might think one way because you're siloed, or you've had only specific experiences with the student population, but you can now borrow from the wisdom that other people have. So reflection is also in the community contributions as well. Next is evaluations. So you're measuring your reflection and you're going with a growth mindset, not just in teaching impact, not just for the faculty, but for my team, the Center for Faculty and Leadership Excellence. We get to take a look at the reflections that we're getting so that we can adjust the content to meet the demands of now and not just make assumptions that we've created the right thing, but we have all this reflection data so that we can go back and see, oh my gosh, a lot of people in the self-assessment said that they do not have a skill set in this particular area of psychological safety. So our team then knows we need to do a workshop on that. We need to create a coaching program on that. We need to coach leaders. We need to provide more resources on that specific thing. So individuals get to reflect on their individual capacity, but with evaluation tools of our courses and how the content is used helps us adjust as well. So here I have the 4 levels of Kirkpatrick and how potentially we can utilize it. What I think is great with the learning management systems now is that you can have add-ons and you could even track the emojis that individuals are using to like each other's comments or workbooks. So we can even look at the impressions that we get from that. The text feedback that we get from the workbooks and activities, that's going to be helpful. but also as individuals are going through that, the process of evaluating the course and evaluating the content, they get to evaluate how they felt about it, how they perceived their satisfaction. So all important data. Level two, that's the pre and post. That's the most direct. We'll get to see what their metacognition is, and they will get to see how at the beginning of the course they had this basic foundational knowledge or any gaps, but at the end of the course, of course, they were able to get to 85% or better and see how they've grown. Level three, behavior. After they leave our courses, we're going to do the 3, 6, 9, and 1 year follow-up. Have you been using those impact moves? Have you been tracking it? Um, what has been the differences from that? So we're going to be making sure that we reach out after. So we're going to be inviting individuals to do focus groups with us. We're going to look at the student data to see what that looks like. Have our faculty grown in empathy and how to deal with students' different social determinants of learning that may come up for the individual student or crises in the area? Are they better equipped to create that psychological safety specific to the mock course that I provided? And level four, of course, is how it impacts the broader community, the institution. So, do faculty who complete the Teaching and Learning Foundations course have higher satisfaction rates from the student population? So, of course, after a while, we'll be able to see that impact data, how it's impacting our student population. So, that is my presentation. If anyone has any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. You can reach me at smcdowell-porter@chamberlain.edu. I am also on LinkedIn, so if you would like to connect and talk about this presentation some more, or if you would like any collegial support in understanding how you do matrices or talking more about what we're doing here at Chamberlain, I would love to hear more from you as well. So thank you so much, and hope to see you at the conference. Thank you.